Okay, welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, Jimmy Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, Tommy Duncan.
And our special guest,
Charlie Dawes here. Glad to be with you all. Definitely appreciate being here today.
Tom, go ahead.
All right.
Finish up our
so
discussion.
we are going to finally finish up our last segment on what we consider to be 5 of the top issues for the black men in America. So we started out with, of course, the high incarceration rates within our community.
Number 5.
Absolutely. Then we went to homicide, black on black crime in
Number
particular.
4.
Unemployment and underemployment.
Yes, a good discussion.
Which filters into a
That
lot
ended
of
up being a whole show just by itself.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. And then we talked about money and finance, and that, of course, was a whole show as well.
And now we're down to
Power.
To power.
And so now we're going to talk about black men in power in America in context of how we are navigating and operating not just at an individual level, but collectively in terms of competition as well in the global scheme of things. So where do we start off?
Do you guys think that maybe since we elected President Obama, we elected a black man as president, that there are some people who are thinking we can relax now, we can wait to exhale, so we can exhale and just breathe, and that we've reached the pinnacle of power in America, which is the White House. And
Well, no, I'd have to disagree with that, because considering if we live in an age where we are still living in and exercising probably the worst of everything. When I say the worst of everything, we're talking about the worst in terms of financial health.
yes,
Because we're on the bottom of the totem pole. Of all the groups in America, we're on the bottom of the totem pole in terms of per capita wealth and finances within our community. Number 2, we look at overall health. When we look at all of the health issues that we have in terms of mortality rates, in terms of cancer, in terms of diabetes, we're at the bottom of the food chain there.
Yes, which we are.
Absolutely. And in terms of access to power and the means of controlling our destiny, we're on the bottom of the totem pole there, so it has absolutely nothing to do with Obama.
I don't know if there are any industries that we actually control and
Well, we
run?
do have a lot of barbershops.
Barbershop.
Hey,
Is barber is that really an industry?
it definitely is an industry, though. We laugh, right?
Yeah.
But there's
Control and sell the clippers and the alcohol, the products.
and that's a good pushback.
shaving
We
cream.
don't in distribution in terms of those.
We're talking retail.
Yes.
Solely retail, though, not the equipment.
Okay. Yes. So
They
yeah.
use the stuff that the barber uses, the sheen spray and
No, we don't.
And so
No, we don't.
But the other side of that, right, is again what we said in other episodes, looking at what we have. There are just geniuses within particularly the tech space that can begin to introduce solutions on the within those barbershops in terms of bringing them together, bringing some central solutions to begin to monetize their services even more, streamline them, et cetera, et cetera. So just something that
this is not to say anything against our Asian brethren, but when I look at how they have stepped into that whole nail industry, they don't just provide the service of doing a lot of the what do they call it, mani-pedi, whatever it is.
Mani-pedi.
Yeah. I guess for the technicians who have to be certified, they control a lot of the schools to supply the technicians for the shops that many of them that they own. Some of these people hadn't been here. There's recent people who come here. A lot of them come and overstay their visas. And so if you look at the Homeland Security, go under ICE, you'll find that the largest number of visa overstays are within the Asian community. But you never see them being rounded up, put on that 747 and flown home. Why? Because no one considers them to be a problem. Because if you have an Asian person who's here illegally, they can get a job somewhere with one of their Asian business owners. To me, that is a necessarily direct power, but it's certainly indirect, because they're now saying that, look, you don't have to round our people up and deport them, because they're functioning within society. They have jobs, they're taking care of themselves, they're not on your social welfare. But for us to say that the barber industry is the only industry that we kind of have a grip on, and that's only because we provide the labor for it. We don't even provide the tools for it.
Well, Jimmy, there is another one.
What's
There,
another?
there is the church.
Church is the industry?
Well, I mean, when you consider the amount of money, well, I mean, maybe you can rebrand it as something else, but when you
Didn't
consider,
Jesus toss out the money exchanges in the temple?
well, yeah, but that's our churches. They reinstituted the.
Yeah,
But if you look
back
at
on the
but if you
table,
consider
son
the
of a
amount of
bitch.
money that the black church brings in, not just in this city but nationally,
That's true.
yes, that has to be an industry.
I haven't seen
Religion,
numbers
religion,
recently. When I
religion.
moved here back here in 1990, I read an article that the black church in the DFW area were depositing $25 million a week into white-owned banks. This was a time that, it's not to embarrass any of these pastors, but like Freddie Haynes and a few other big pastors were trying to come together to start a bank, a black-owned bank. And they needed $5 million for the charter, and somehow they couldn't quite get it together to raise it. How do you have trouble raising $5 million when you're depositing $25 million a week?
And that was probably a long time
That
ago.
was back in 1990.
Okay, yeah.
That's some devilish math right there. Right?
Yeah, ain't no telling how what they're doing now. That probably 10 times that amount now, easily probably. With the advent of all the big
So I would
churches.
say, yeah. I mean, the retail end of the hair care for men, and maybe beauty as well, and then obviously the church. Other than that, I would be scratching my head to figure out other industries that we are have control over and are dominating.
So I hear that the Indian population here is very big players in the motel industry.
Oh, absolutely.
And-
Motel and then the fuel station.
Okay. And so a lot of those people have not been here very long, 2-3 generations at best. And so I still consider that we, despite all the setbacks we've had in America, we should be much further along than we are. There should be some industries that we dominate, not just provide the labor for, like in professional sports and entertainment, but some industries that we control and people come to us and we set the direction for. It's not technology, it's not financing. Finance, it's not security, it's not investments, it's not in home building, it's not in distributing. I mean, I think it's sad that, maybe beauty, hair care, and maybe the church are the things that we consider industries that we sort of have some say in.
Yeah, I would say that I mean, there may be a few other ones, but those are the ones that come. And I guess maybe we should start off for our audience in particular is how are we defining power before we proceed?
I think power is the ability to live your life the way you want to be able to set some direction, and something where you feel as at least you have a say in the matter. Sometimes power could just be the fact that you have wealth. Sometimes power could be in the fact that you know people and you can get things done. So you may not necessarily be the person pushing the buttons, but you know the person who pushes the buttons, and then you can make suggestions to them and recommendations. So, but how we define power is obvious that we don't have, black men don't have very much of it here in America. We don't control anything, we don't run anything, and if all of us decide to stay home on Monday, who would even notice or care for the most part? There would be some other groups that could threaten to take Monday off, and that may make some national news, but if we all decide to stay home, I don't think corporate America would even notice that much.
What are your perspectives on power and how is it defined in your perspective?
Sure. Wonderful, wonderful question. I'd like to just provide additional, kind of piggybacking off of Jimmy's comments. To me, it's the ability to determine direction and movement. And why I say that is because when it comes to like real power, a lot of times we often equate it with visibility, right? So someone like P. Diddy or Brother Love, whatever he calls himself these days, right? Puff Daddy, right? Puffy from the 90s, right? He's been in everyone's videos. He's been with that toothpick hanging in his mouth. You see him parodied on the Chappelle Show, all kind of stuff, right? Going to get that cheesesteak from across the bridge, et cetera, et cetera. He definitely has quite a bit of resources, right?
Yes, he does.
But it's a literal drop in the bucket when it comes to the people behind him.
Correct.
Right? And so I call him Sir Colin the Courageous. Colin Kaepernick. He's just a hero for all times for me on a number of levels. But when it came to the sale of the Carolina Panthers, right? You had Diddy, who was expressed interest in the league. Basically shut him out, for lack of a better word. And
Yeah,
To be a minority investor.
just to put an investment group together to possibly buy the Panthers, but the league would never allow that to happen.
Exactly.
They quietly
Because-
blackballed Kaepernick. They won't say it because
We're talking P. Diddy though, right?
We're talking P. Diddy. I'm just saying that they quietly blackballed him, so he's not coming back to football over their dead bodies collectively. And they certainly wouldn't let P. Diddy and any investment group do like the New Jersey Nets, I believe. That was, they paired up with the Russians and I can't who's
Jay-Z.
Beyonce or something.
Yeah.
As part of that group that had bought in with him, but the NFL wouldn't allow that to happen. They're too concerned about their brand and what some of these people would bring to it and the harm that it may cause overall.
Now, so help me just to make sure that I'm clear. What would be the issue with P. Diddy?
Well, P. Diddy said he would sign Kaepernick to a contract, and so for a group of guys that have already unspoken gentleman's agreement, and I don't know this for certain, so I don't want anyone to write me letters saying, "How do you know this?" I don't. I'm just looking at the circumstantial evidence that
Strong circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly better than just about every second and third string quarterback in the league.
Sure.
So
and several first strings.
and even some first stringers out there. So so an argument can be made that he should have at least a 1-year contract with somebody who needs a quarterback, and there are lots of teams that need it. The fact that nobody is calling, no one is looking at him, no one's giving him a tryout, lets me know that the GMs and the owners around the league have already unspokenly decided
that trade is left for Depot.
yeah, that's gone. He's not. We're not going to pull that back to the stage for him to get on. And anyone who's talking about signing him, obviously don't understand the culture here. And if they don't understand us at that level, they're certainly not going to understand us on other levels. So we'll just be opening the door for problems. So yeah, so if Pete didn't go out and raise $10 billion and come to the table and say, this is what we bring to the table, and the answer would still be no.
So my question is this: now that we've defined what power means from your perspective, why is it that you don't believe that black men in America, why don't they have more power than what they already do, and then we'll let the conversation go from there? Not to say that we don't have power, because obviously we do have some power, but why don't we have more power or a very small amount of power relative to what our potential is?
We see ourselves at large as one-dimensional beings. Mm-hmm. I watched a video on a social network yesterday. No need to give them additional cuts, right? But this young Asian boy, probably about 12 or 13, was juggling 3 Rubik's Cubes, right? And all know about the Rubik's Cubes, you put them in...
Now tell me he was solving it while he was juggling.
Solving it while he was juggling. No, I'm no expert video editor or anything, but I also know I've never put together a Rubik's Cube in my life. So 3 Rubik's Cubes, and this was within 3 to 4 minutes. He set a new world record. And so I shared the post, and I just said, never limit the thoughts of your children, something to that effect. And so there are parents who have, there are parents who haven't, right? But for society's view of us, and a lot of times by extension our view of ourselves, we see ourselves as either athletes, mm-hmm. right? Whether it be football, basketball, not even baseball anymore, which is super
right.
interesting because it's one of the highest paid sports with guaranteed money. There might be another topic, but that relates into power in and of itself in terms of the narrative, where you see yourself and your positioning. And then also, we more often than not see ourselves as brutes, if we're honest, in terms of the thug culture, which a lot of us have co-signed either by silence and as sexual aggressors, in terms of letting our penis lead the way and our bodies following. Just real talk. And so all of those are just one dimensions that we see ourselves as, and that didn't even begin to come close to the scope of our ability, of our genius, of our contribution, not only as present, but in the past and in the future. Again, back to the basics. There, a century plus ago, us, in terms of black men, which we're talking about right now, creating inventions that revolutionize the world.
Absolutely.
It's a stop sign right out there.
There we go.
Right?
We're talking about the steam engine.
Steam engine.
That revolutionized business in America.
Sure.
You know, Gary worked with the stoplight, with the gas mask. How many wars have been fought in the last century and a half where lives have been saved off of that?
First man, open heart surgery.
Charles Drew, Stephen Drew Hall at Howard. You know, so there are, and the genius continues, right? But it's also limited because those people don't get the shine, right? A lot of us don't know about Tristan Walker, right? CEO of Bevel and of Walker Company, right? He's got his hands on all kinds of stuff. Like, even to take it a step further, a lot of us don't know about Byron Allen, right? Who just bought the Weather Channel for $300 million. Right? Started off as a comedian, right? But he's
You mean Byron Allen, the comedian?
Byron Allen, the comedian, just bought
Yes.
the Weather Channel for $300 million. But because he's not on this channel and that channel, you know, all in your face, and no disrespect to anyone who is, you know, visibility is important while you're building a brand. But power, in terms of determining direction and movement, will always be so much more important than just being up in everyone's face, because then you're really beginning to determine, as Jimmy said, what your life is going to look like and what the lives of other people is going to look like. And so those are some of the basic things that I think will begin to inform us on a greater level in terms of power, in terms of taking that destiny to determine movement and direction rather than just being visible.
Well, you know what, think about it though, if you know you have this pressure pot in the boiler, pressure builder, and every now and then you gotta release that valve and let some steam out, then a few people off the plantation, you're going to want to do that in such a way, you're talking about visibility, where if I can divert you over here to focus on this, and this, make this person successful, that one, and put them in your eye, then in your mind, you're not chasing this over here. I still think that all the things that evolve in America with black people can't be by accident. It just can't. There has to be some intelligence, a master plan behind some of it. And I still think that if you, not necessarily that it's racist, I just think it's group survival. That if it was me and I was doing a master plan, I'd want to ensure that my children and the people who look like me and their children had a better chance of succeeding than other people. My first interest is not other people. My primary interest is going to be me and my group. So if I can make sure that these industries over here are safe, and these jobs are safe, and these opportunities are safe, and point you over here where 1,500 jobs in the NBA, but you know what? I would say probably every black kid, black male in America at some point thought about playing professional basketball, professional football. What are there, maybe 3,000 jobs in the NFL? So between, and like I said, the most lucrative sport, baseball, we don't even focus too much on, because they don't even highlight that, but for 3,500 jobs in professional sports between basketball and football, this is where our kids are focused on, not on the Wall Street guy, not on the investment banker job, where you can do multi-billion-dollar deals, and not on how to be the next social media king, None of that. That's not where our kids are focused on. Our kids are focused on either how to tell a joke, how to throw a football, run a football, or shoot a hoop.
And that to piggyback just real quick, not even on construction.
Oh,
Right
no,
away
construction.
to begin a family lineage and legacy in terms of
Construction was an industry that black men dominated. at the time of
Absolutely.
the
Matter of fact,
1900s.
my paternal great-grandfather was in the construction industry. My great aunt told me about my great grandfather on my father's side, and he laid cement and did a lot of work in the construction industry based upon standards at that point in time. In the early part of the 20th century, did extremely well.
And if you drive through the black community, how many busted driveways exist? Somebody who knows how to do cement and repair that would be great if you knew someone in your community that could do that. That could teach the young boys around there
Thank you.
on how to do it, and maybe lead to employment opportunity. We built all these freeways through TxDOT, and one of my clients is responsible for providing resources to construction companies to help them meet their minority goals from TxDOT. And they're struggling. They can never find enough black people who know, have construction knowledge. But for an industry that 100 years ago, we were the dominant players, to the point now we can't even keep enough for 1 or 2% minority set aside satisfied. It's sad. What happened between then and now for all of this knowledge and skills to be eroded that, now you go on construction sites and what do you find? People don't even speak English. Even if you went out there looking for a job, you wouldn't be able to get one now because the people who dominate that industry now aren't necessarily prejudiced or racist. They're just looking out for their group first and not necessarily your group.
Gotcha. No, that brings up a very good point. And if we look at this from based upon how we are defining power and what we feel are the issues and the challenges, and we look at the black male in context for this, then that even has broader and more sweeping changes, because with the black male being the lead in the black family and the black community, if he's not in a position to compete economically and or politically, and what does that mean in terms of our community and its chances at survival if we look at the next 400 to 500 years, if we're not in a position to be able to compete at all levels?
Yeah, if the black man doesn't step his game up and take more of a leadership role in his home and in his community to start setting some direction. There are light construction projects that everyone in the community needs. Fences that are falling apart. What would it take to train a couple of young kids on how to build a fence and have them go around and look and say, look, your fence needs some repairs, it needs, some structural reinforcement needs this. Would you be willing to pay me if I came in and did it? And I have some references and some of your neighbors who will use the service that you will talk to. We should be looking to take some knowledge on rebuilding and use it to our advantage. I mean, I'm impressed when you go over to like West Oak Club and some of the Latino, Hispanic areas, where they've done just that. When I lived outside of University Park, not that far from me was the Bottom Lake area. The people who knew construction around there would take their skills. If one guy knew how to build a fence, every Hispanic or Latino on that street had a nice fence. If one person wanted to paint, all of them would get they'd come together on the weekend, cook food and have parties, and have construction parties and fix each other's property up. And now that little bottleneck that was deteriorating is now coming back. It looks fairly decent. House is still too small for me, but that's another story. But I'm saying that's the kind of things that we can do rather than waiting for the houses in our areas to fall apart and see them come tear them down. We should be trying to push our young kids who are not doing anything right now constructively to learn the construction industry, because somebody's always going to be building something around here, especially in the DFW area. We have almost, I think they said up in that 121 corridor, there's $100 billion of construction just in 121 corridor, up in Frisco and Plano area. So like I said, there's building going on, and we lost that knowledge, we've lost our edge, but it's not too late for us to get it back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now we are going to have a segment where we talk about some of the solutions to these problems.
That would be one for me, to get our young folks involved in the trades and construction. And like Jetta said, college is not for everyone, the university is not for everyone, so if it's not for you, that's fine. It doesn't make you any less of a person, but hopefully a trade or having a valuable skill is.
And one of the things as we begin to kind of turn the corner on this as we close out, that we have to understand that a lot of what, you know, you've both been talking about, great points, has to do with social engineering. And the question is, why don't we have exposure and or access to some of these areas? And it's not an accident that when you go to a high school or even a junior high school today and you ask a kid what he wants to do and he's a young black male, it's typically going to be an entertainer. Maybe that's a filmmaker, maybe that's a football or basketball player. You may find a few who have some exposure who are looking at being an architect or an astronaut or a physician, but if you look at the statistics, typically they're talking about being an entertainer. That's a rapper, that's an athlete of some sort, maybe that's somebody who is in front of film, because that's kind of the stuff that they see. And that is socially engineered and basically directing their path as to where they're going to go, where they're not going to go, and then that
Because someone put out that message that these are viable for you.
Absolutely.
So you believe that you can reach that goal because someone's put in your head that it's viable. How productive it is for everyone to try to be, you know, everybody's not going to be a rapper, everyone's not going to play professional sports, we know that. Only a handful, less than 1% are going to make it, probably 1/10 of 1% at best, but our kids still believe that that's viable for them. Really
exactly. So I think, you know, before we begin to close out, I mean, part of it is going to require a change in mindset.
Sure.
And then there are going to be, I mean, and this is a conversation that we've had before, we've got to be very careful as to where we're getting our information from and what we are allowing ourselves and, more importantly, our kids to be exposed to, because that in essence is probably the biggest issue, because everything that we're talking about has to do with propaganda and mass media, and that in and of itself begins to steer what direction you're going in or not.
Well, word to the mothers, if you have sons, you need to be tuned in to Black Men Speak, because the men here are going to encourage our young black males to grow up, be positive, and to do great things. And like Jetta said, you know, you have the power and ability within you. Don't let anyone, you know, crush your dreams and set your sights on low expectations. You can be whatever you want to be if you're willing to put the work in.
And anything else on your end before we close out?
Do not underestimate the power of the basics. You know, we were talking about Oak Cliff earlier, right? There's a shout out to another one of my friends. I'm so fortunate to, you know, after one of the most challenging years of my life, most people do not get married expecting to be divorced, but it does happen. It happens quite a bit in our nation and also definitely in our communities. And so when I got back, it was definitely a rebuilding process. I met so many awesome people. One of those people is Cameron Tendaji, who has an event over in Oak Cliff called Black Canvas. And it's right on Jefferson, I think over at the Island spot. And I am just reminded every time I go over there of the Latinx community there, of just business after business after business after business after business. And I don't know any of those people, right? It'd be great to meet them someday, but I am confident that if we took a survey of those folk, that you might find in the very low double digits those who went to college,